Welcome in to today's Tidely webinar. Just as a reminder for those of you who've been here for a while, this year we've been helping people connect with people on their pathway from discovery through engagement, discipleship, and then eventually to generosity. And in each of these webinars, we've covered tools, we've covered techniques, things from techie SEO stuff, non-techie SEO stuff. But today I'm excited to be talking about AI. But before I do, I want to introduce Corey Aldrin, who is the founder and CEO of Sermon Shots, which some of you may have heard of. It's a platform that helps churches use AI and digital content to extend the reach of their sermons beyond the Sunday morning through sermon clips, social media content, devotionals, discussion guides, many other resources that Corey will share about. Sermon Shots equips churches to maximize the impact of every message without adding hours of work to their week. Corey is passionate about helping ministries leverage technology effectively while staying focused on their mission of making disciples. Welcome to today's workshop, Corey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Let's dive right in. Let's start with the big picture. So why do you think so many churches are underutilizing the content that they're already creating every week?
Maybe a couple different things. One is maybe not realizing all the different things that other churches are doing right now with the content that they have, not realizing the different opportunities that are out there. I think another big one is just it feels complicated sometimes, or another thing that I have to do.
Oh, yeah.
Depends on the person, but sometimes just saying social media can be a little, bring up a little anxiety in somebody. And so any sort of like, what do I post? What do I do? All of that is like a lot of questions that come up in somebody's head.
Yeah. Like they know they need to be there, and I know they've got good content, but the bridge between, well, how do I get my stuff out there? And then what platform do I put it on? What do you think, since you've been in this space for a while, what's changed in the last few years that makes sermon repurposing more important now than ever?
What makes it more important? The first thing I think about is just in the last couple of years, there is a lot of content, more content out there. Creating content in itself is actually easier to do now than ever. And so when something becomes a lot easier to do, there's just a lot more of it. And what is really easy to do is AI created content. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the AI slop, that people like to say. I don't think it's all slop, of course, but just the idea of that, of like, you just create all of this content. And so when there's so much content, you have to stand out. I think the church still has this very strong thing that makes them stand out. It's very like, you've got this thing that you do every Sunday that is not AI, right? It's a very human connection type of content. So I think that is unique, that has the ability to really stand out.
So kind of related to that, what do you think is the biggest misconception church leaders have about using AI for ministry content? Is it related to the like artifacts or like crazy six-fingered people that generate sometimes?
I think the six finger thing is probably something that is still in people's heads as a thing, even though AI has gotten better at that, right?
Sure.
We have also, as humans, gotten better at understanding when something's AI. So maybe the five-fingered person, but you still see some differences. What is some of the hesitation though still? I think is just rightfully so, is just what is AI doing to us as a church? But I think there's a lot of worrisome ways that you can still use AI in a lot of ways that is just like, as long as a human is in the loop in all of this.
So maybe to clarify right at the beginning, you're not talking about using AI to manufacture anything that's fake or fabricated. You have a tool that uses AI to streamline processes. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, if we stuck to specifically sermon shots, yeah, absolutely. That's super for me. Even though maybe I'm biased, we're simply giving a tool that helps you speed up the process of doing this. But we still think that you having the ability to edit every piece of it, be there, not just take what AI gives you and put it straight onto social media. There's somebody in the middle.
Do like that cool editing piece. What would
Yeah.
you say? What if a pastor says, my sermon was heard by the people who needed to hear it on a Sunday? How would you respond to that?
Like basically pointing out that like that's enough. Everybody that should have heard it.
Yeah, like it feels kind of like a Jesus juke, maybe like a Holy Spirit play. Like, I'm a pastor. God's called me to pastor this church. He'll bring the people there.
Yeah.
Those are the people that need to hear it. Maybe I don't know. I don't need to do extra. What would you say to them?
Well, it's hard for me to argue if a pastor feels very strongly about that. No, but putting the joke aside, there's so much more opportunity. I would find it hard to believe that a pastor thinks absolutely that there's no reason to ever do anything outreach outside of Sunday, right? Churches and pastors are doing that. Why not utilize the thing that we have at our disposal right now, which is social media, that gets the most outreach? Or, just, it's not even just social media, it's anything outside of Sunday, really. Social media is the big one. Why not do that?
Well, and when you say social media, you're definitely including YouTube, TikTok, platforms like that. But it could also be a clip from a message that you share person to person, right? Or by email.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, any social media. And yeah, I think a lot of people, when you say social media, maybe think Facebook, Instagram, and kind of, but yeah, YouTube. There's all, and each one of these platforms has a unique or a different audience. There's an overlapping audience, but there's a different audience, and there's a different way that you deliver your message on each of these, right? And so that can feel complicated. So I think sometimes maybe it feels like it's too much work for what maybe sometimes feels like not enough output or return, that sort of thing, right? I can totally understand that. But if we're able to leverage this in a way that is just, we're leveraging AI now to help us speed up a lot of this, I think we can outreach with the content we're making right now. You're making that content. Yeah, go ahead.
What are some of the most effective ways churches can extend the life of a sermon beyond a Sunday morning? So you mentioned clips and sharing. Anything else come to mind in that space?
Yeah, I think the opportunity is way more than I can probably even imagine. I probably don't have all of the ideas. I think there's a lot of ideas out there that people can come to. But to get that started, I had probably the 4 to 7 things that I've seen be the most impactful outside of clips. I think we've already talked about that.
Yep.
Clips are very impactful. I think repurposing your sermon into a different language. So taking your video and putting it in a different language. There's lots of languages out there that don't have the same opportunity to have different content. Discussion guides. A lot of churches are doing this, but you can do that very simply now, or easier, faster. 5-day devotionals. The churches that I'm seeing that are using the 5-day devotional in different places, they use it all over. They'll use it on their app, they'll use it on their website, they'll post it on social media, creating images around that as well to grab attention on social media. Feel like there's a lot of things that you can do.
Almost limited by only your imagination, right?
Yeah. And I'm seeing churches who combine things like who might say, here's the 5-day devotional, and here's an image from Sunday, or here's today's 5-day devotional, and then point it to a blog post about the content, and then hopefully maybe they'll go to the sermon. There's lots of different ways that churches are using all of this different content.
Well, thinking through churches that are using it, it sounds like you're in my brain. It sounds like marketing, which we never like to talk about marketing in church.
Yeah.
But you did mention maybe a strategic pathway that would say, hey, a thing happens on a Sunday. We know we want to disciple you throughout the week. What content can we create that's going to help you be a better follower of Christ, help you connect to the message that we shared, and then help you connect with others as well? Is that generally how you see that framework play out? And then um, what is the way I want to ask this question? Are there any churches that you see doing this well that you would just call out that come to mind? Like, hey, go check out this church or this church. This is always in my feed.
I don't know if I have names off the top of my head. Yeah. I don't know if I do. And if I, I'll avoid that maybe just because I'm not sure if I'll answer it correctly, the names, but also because I know churches that are using sermon shots. I also don't know which ones. Right?
I actually know a local church that uses sermon shots, Carpenter's Church, and they actually do a really good job. My son and I lead worship there on occasion. So when I was talking to their pastor, this was even before I knew what sermon shots was. We've been there for a few years. But when I was talking to Pastor Ken and saying he had that burden, he's like, I know I need to be out here. I don't know what to do. But I found a tool that clips my messages and makes it super easy to edit and get to all the places. And, I had some conversations about editing tips and techniques. I see a lot of looping videos these days that are pretty amazing.
Yes. Yeah. What I would say, just to answer your question generally, what I think of as good use of this content is I know from lots of studies that there are a lot of people when they're sort of trying to decide like a new church to go to, for example, they have this idea, they have these things that they're looking for in a church, right? Traditionally in the past, you would just go to all these churches. One Sunday you go here, here, here. But that's not necessarily how most people do it anymore. What they're doing is they're going to their social media, right? So then that person is making those same decisions on what church to go to based on much shorter attention span. What does it feel like when a person comes to your social media? And so I sort of feel like if that's how people are deciding, and if that's important to you as a church, your social media needs to almost feel like, what does it feel like to go to church on Sunday? If that's the replacement that is happening, someone needs to understand what going to church on Sunday feels like when they come to your social media. What does the, I'm not saying any of this is valid, but people decide things based on what the pastor looks up like on stage, right? What does the music sound like? What does the person at the door do? Do they hope, like all these things?
Where do I park? Where do I take my kids?
Yeah, all these things are important. Can they get that sort of sense of, this feels like a church I would want to go to by seeing your first 5 posts on your feed? And how better do you do that than just utilizing the content that you already have from Sunday? And sermon shots is part of that, but there's other things too, like just taking pictures and posting those on Sunday. So just a quick summary, I would just say, does it feel like what your church feels like on Sunday?
And what types of content tend to generate the most engagement? All of them? One of them?
I can speak to this generally, but then I know other pastors and people I talk to will say different things depending on where they're posting and who their audience really is and who's their church. Clips still dominate. It's one of the easiest ways to reach people outside of your followers if you're posting them as reels.
Sure.
It's just how social media is right now. It's just they're trying to get your video in front of people that want to see your video, and it's not always people that follow your page. And so
super short video clips.
that is still the number one way. But I have pastors that have told me lots of times that their 5-day devotional gets the most engagement. They post that every day. People respond to it, and even one of them said that they got multiple texts one day when they didn't post it on social media. So, so
They look forward to it.
yeah. So it just depends where are you posting. It's different on Facebook than it is on TikTok, right? Or who are you trying to reach?
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, before we get too much in the weeds of AI, I just want to remind our audience in the chat that you are free to ask a question of Corey. If you use the Q&A button that's up, it should be above the audience chat. You can click on that and submit your question. And we can go as deep in the weeds as you want, or we can go as layman terms. So bring those questions in and we'll get to those more toward the end. So shifting gears a little bit, AI has become a major topic in ministry circles. So churches are considering the ethics of using AI. We've talked some on how we can use it to help, how it hinders, it does crazy stuff. How can churches, in your opinion, use AI responsibly while maintaining authenticity and theological accuracy?
Big topic.
Yeah.
Well, ethically, there's a couple of different questions in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ethically, I don't know if I totally understand all of the ethics around some of the things out there. So I'm not going to be able to speak to every single thing. I think the biggest ones, and I actually, maybe it's even a kind of a question back to you too, is just the big ones that I'm hearing ethically is things like, am I replacing the Holy Spirit in some ways, right? Is AI stealing stuff from other people that right? And then
like copywritten stuff to give you, and then you present it as your own. And
yeah.
Stanley's sermon from last week.
Yeah. Those are big ones. There's more, but those big ones to me, valid probably in some way. I still feel like, for me, that's not how I use AI, or I think you should use AI. That, to me, like, if you're still in the loop, like I said before, human in the loop, you in the loop of everything being done with AI. I don't know if any of that's valid. I can see it becoming an issue if you decide, the last 3 times I reviewed things, I liked it, I tweaked a few things, and then today I'm like, I don't have any time. So I know it generally is okay, just copy paste, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, if that's where things continue to go, I can see all that being valid concern. But I just think that if you're reviewing everything, editing everything, you avoid a lot of that. So, but
it's a good answer.
It's a
new frontier.
Yeah, we're like, I think we're still trying to figure some of this all out. Yeah. But I don't know. What do you? I'm curious if I can flip it back at you. I don't know if that's okay to do on here. I'm curious what you think about
anything goes here. So I think on the theological part, if you use it as a tool to replace the Holy Spirit, then I think you're missing the point of the Holy Spirit as teacher and guide, because I believe the Bible is the sole authority. So if I want to study the Bible more efficiently, I might use an AI tool that really understands the Bible. I might ask ChatGPT theological questions, but again, I'm going to verify it. And, I've been in church. I was born on a Sunday. My parents were in the church. So I've read through the Bible a number of times, but I'm still going to go back and verify. I think if anybody were to come on the scene, I think it has the potential to feed into some false prophets, to be able to go in and, hey, I can be a pastor now. I just have to type in this thing and now I can get these messages that people love. And I can share them all over social media. But then I've made followers of myself and not followers of Jesus, and I haven't made disciples of Christ.
Mhm.
So I think as a tool that way, I don't agree with its use. But, I have looked at a passage of scripture that I didn't totally understand, and just wanted to understand more commentary on it. And because, I don't know what you talk about plagiarism or stealing models. I don't know what access ChatGPT has to commentaries and other trusted sources.
Yeah.
So I might start there just to get a general idea, but then I'm going to study.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, I think wisdom, right?
Wisdom.
Be wise.
Yeah.
It's not, don't, I mean, I would encourage any church that's exploring using AI for anything to start with the why behind it. Because there are processes that it can make a whole lot easier, like writing a summary email or, outlining a blog post, or even taking a transcript from a message. And I haven't used Sermon Shots, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but can it take a transcript and then turn it into other deliverables like you mentioned?
Yeah. Well, essentially, when you upload your sermon, that's kind of what it's doing. It's creating that transcript so that then it has all of the context of everything. So
So
then it
it's
can
taking
deliver every.
the
Go ahead.
words the pastor said, the scriptures he used, and then it's not regenerating anything from magic. It's just like taking it and turning it into another source,
Correct.
right? Yeah,
Yep. It's keeping the content around the idea of that full transcript. That's all it's doing.
that's great.
Not to say that it can't go off a little bit, right? AI is kind of known for occasionally hallucinating, right?
Yeah,
So,
fabricate.
uh,
Well, so what are some tasks that AI can handle exceptionally well when it comes to sermon content? And then what are other areas you have to monitor a little more? And you can speak specifically to sermon shots, or how about
yeah,
you?
I mean, I would say inside of Sermon Shots, I know the best, the content that it creates. When you are creating content specifically and only from exactly the source, I mean, it is very hard to misquote you when it uses actual quotes from the transcript, right? So,
Right.
um, it can, so creating videos, creating taking quotes in the Bible verses that you've used and putting them on images, those things. I think where you really have to start to be careful, or you have to make sure you're reviewing a little bit more, is when it is creating this content that it is rewording things.
Mm,
It creating a blog post, creating a discussion guide, creating a 5-day devotional. We're not just taking full little snippets of your transcript, right? In order for the 5-day devotional to be at least a little bit different and unique from your sermon, it does have to reword things. And so I think that's where you just have to make sure, is this living up to the standard of what I want to deliver? Again, not just taking that, copy it, paste it over to where
yeah.
it's at. You should review it and make sure that it's right to your the way you want your church to be displayed, I guess. So,
Right. So then you
and
might save hours of time because now you don't have to manually take your sermon, read back through it or watch back through it, and then write those 5 days of devotionals.
yeah,
You can have it started there, and then you can go back through as an editor and verify and affirm that's exactly what you said. So now you've shrunk that task down to maybe
yep,
an hour, 45 minutes.
yep. And in
Yep.
some churches, historically, that could have been a 3-person job. One person's doing the initial thing, then the next person's doing something else, and then the last person's reviewing it. You may not need all of those hours of different people. Now you just need the last person to review it.
Yeah, that's great. Um, can you walk us through what a practical workflow looks like for sermon shots, like functionally?
Hmm. Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can start. We've got some churches who just upload their sermon. So YouTube, for example, is the most popular.
Uh-huh.
But you can live stream it straight in as well and save you that time. So as soon as you are done recording Sunday, it gets ingested automatically and it starts creating all the different content. So either way that you ingest it, it starts working, and in about 5 minutes, everything is ready for you to download or edit.
That's fast. 5 minutes?
In about 5 minutes, everything's there. Anything related to media where you need to like choose a design that you want or edit any of that stuff, of course, all that then you then go do. So for example, clips, it'll give you all the suggested spots within the 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But you still have to pick which ones you want. You can edit the selections if you want. So if it found a good 1.5-minute spot, but you wanted to break it down and be 30 seconds, you can edit it down to the 30 seconds. Or maybe it didn't quite start where you wanted it to start. You can go up 5 minutes. There was a great spot where the pastor said this thing, and then he had all this fluff in here for a little bit. Then he ended it, right? So you can take those bits and pieces and put them together.
Trim them.
Yep.
Does it trim out the ums and ahs?
It definitely can. Yes. Yes.
All right. So, man, that's exciting. 5 minutes.
Then you download all this content, and anything that can go on social media, you can share it on social media or download it.
Can you share directly from Sermon Shots?
Yep.
Okay. So you can connect your accounts directly to Sermon Shots. It'll make the clips. You can edit them, and then you can schedule it out.
And then hit share, and it goes. Scheduling's coming. The share feature is something new about 3 months ago or so.
Oh, cool.
And the schedule part's coming.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, that sounds super helpful. But even if they wanted to, you could just schedule natively on the platform.
Correct. Yeah. Right. So you just download it.
Yeah. What mistakes do you see churches making when they start using AI generated content? You mentioned a volume of stuff. I wonder if it's something related to that or something different.
Well, for trying to avoid repeating myself in some of the areas, I personally think the biggest mistake is thinking that AI just solves everything. Like in your head, it's very easy to be like, oh, I just click these 2 buttons. Oh, you said it's done in 5 minutes and all I have to do is download and share. Like that is all true. But I think it's easy to get stuck in this like mindset of AI has sped up and made everything fast, and you see it work perfectly 3 times in a row. And the 4th time you just let it go. Mm-hmm. And you miss a thing that maybe doesn't portray things correctly. So
I think it's worth repeating because in this age where a lot of churches are just beginning to think about using AI tools for anything in their church, right? Not just repurposing sermon contents, but should we use it in our church? I think it's worth repeating a number of times.
Yeah.
You've got to have the human in the loop, man.
Yeah. And I will say, I think there's legitimate cases for letting AI do some things on its own. But I just don't know if anywhere related to talking about Jesus, about the Bible, is a place I want to just let AI do its thing on its own. Mm-hmm. So personally, I'd be very careful of that.
Yeah, I think the people are God's plan for reaching his people, not sentient robots or artificial intelligence.
Correct. Yeah.
I even think about you and I have both traveled to the far ends of the earth. I remember being in a very remote village in Indonesia and being fascinated that this guy on this moped in this coffee village on the top of a mountain, 4 hours from anywhere and 2 islands east of Bali, was on Facebook. And not only that, but Facebook translates into their heart language, or at least as close as it can into their native language. So if we're not using the tools of today to reach people, we're doing something wrong. But it still takes a people connection, right? It makes it easier to get it out there, but then you still need to go places and help people see.
Yep. Yep. I really think the more we get more and more digital, more and more AI, more and more non-human things, the human interaction is going to be more and more valuable. People will continue to crave that, even if they don't directly speak to it. I think
Yeah,
the human element is going to be more valuable.
I agree. So, how can churches use sermon content not only to disciple members, but also to reach people who aren't attending church?
I think that's where going back to clips is some of the biggest impact, because
Hmm.
it is the way to get into other people's feed that don't follow you.
That aren't connected.
Facebook and Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, people, when they go to them, they're going to their feed and they're scrolling and trying to get and watch videos, right?
Yeah.
More and more, it's not who you follow. You're not seeing your followers' content as much. You're not seeing your family's content as much. You're seeing what Facebook and Instagram thinks that you would want to see, right? And so we as the church have the ability to inject our videos into their feeds. They don't follow us. We can do that. So I think that is a way to reach people who are not planning on ever watching one of your sermons.
Well, isn't it interesting that if you've been on Facebook or social media for any period of time, there was a shift where it started out people to people, and then it was people to groups, and then brands got in there, and then it was like people to brands, and then all the people in it are like, I don't want to connect with brands, I want to connect with people. And I think they realized it, and now that's where the rise of the influencer comes in, and it they want to show you more people that you're interested in.
Yep.
And brands are kind of got the second fiddle on that one.
Yep. And I think on that point, because there might be a little bit in that feels like it's a little contradicting, right? Because if Facebook or Instagram is trying to get a video in front of, like, trying to connect a video to a person that's going to watch it, right? It knows sort of what kind of video content you like to watch. I think that churches then need to think about a little bit how to slightly adapt their content with that in mind. Not saying adapt Sunday. Sunday's for that, but you can adapt your video, you can adapt your images, you can adapt your social media a little bit if it's intended to reach somebody who's not part of your church, by taking the content you have and sort of repurposing it to sort of the content or the sort of commentary about what other people are looking for that maybe aren't connected to a church. So rather than there's people that, I'm trying to think of something on the top of my head. There's people looking for advice on X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah.
They maybe aren't looking for a church to answer it, but we can give that biblical point of view, and that can be an answer to that sort of that topic, that question. The person that's really interested in that sort of video, let's have a church answer to that and reach those people that are looking for that answer.
And then we know, I'm thinking like practical marriage tips, or how to be a better husband, or how to lead your kids.
There you go.
Content that you and I know ties back to scripture, but somebody who's looking to be a better dad or a better husband or a better leader at work might not hear, hey, the Bible says this, but they might hear, you treat everybody like you want to be treated, or, be present with your kids.
Yes.
And then eventually that will get them to the truth once they connect with the person, and then.
Yeah. And the biblical message can be in there.
Yeah.
It just maybe doesn't have to be the first 2 seconds of the video, or, right. So,
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, thought that might be worth.
That is good thought, sir. For pastors who feel intimidated by technology, what's one encouraging thing you would tell them?
Oh man. I feel like where AI is going, it's almost it's making the non-technical person be able to approach all the things that they hadn't been able to. I mean,
Technical.
I mean, a lot of what the AI space is doing is making things work where all you're doing is talking to it like you would talk to any normal person. You just tell it what to do and it does it, right? So in a lot of ways, this very technical thing in the background that's happening, that's crazy. You don't need to understand it to just know that it's becoming easier to use, I guess.
Yeah. That's good. All right. We got some questions coming in.
Okay.
Let's see. I got a couple more questions. I feel like we can take a couple of these and then we'll see what kind of time we have left. All right. Many pastors worry that creating more content could dilute the message. How do you help churches maintain depth while adapting content for shorter formats? This is a good one. Because in this space, there's a tendency to say if it's so short, it's out of context, it needs biblical explanation. But then also what we just said was there's a space where you just say the thing that they need to hear, and eventually they'll get the context from the Bible. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I guess the first thing I would first maybe I'll ask, and then I'll also just kind of answer it is, what's the purpose of the content? I mean, yes, you want long form content to be able to explain all of the details. Absolutely. That's Sunday. That's small group. That's get somebody to come to a long video. But you will never get somebody on TikTok to watch. Never's too far. But like, people are not coming to short form video places to watch a 10-minute video. And
Right.
So you're like, you just got to have to think about the purpose of where you're posting these things. People on these other platforms are coming for short content. That's just the reality of it. And so my thought is, rather than just saying, okay, let's avoid it and not be there, remove the church from those places, it's how do we actually get the church in there, but move them along to get them to the...
Yeah, because you want the pathway from initial discovery to maybe they're watching a long form sermon on YouTube or your site to eventually you want them to attend, be discipled, get involved.
Yep.
But if you're not where they're at already on this fringe, how can they ever get to that next spot?
Yep. But I would never suggest that we dilute the message ever. Right. We just got to find a way to make it impactful in that setting.
In that short space. Yeah, the good thoughts there. If a pastor or communications volunteer only had 30 minutes each week to invest in extending the life of a sermon, where would you recommend they focus first?
Again, it probably depends on what where you want to go with things, but I would say the number one place that has the ability to reach the most people is clips. It's just the shorter form video is the way to reach more people. If you're looking at
clips, really on any platform, right?
Yeah, any platform, and I would say even if you're not on at least the top 4 or 5, why not? Because you can just post the same clip on all of them. If you're, I mean, in 30 minutes, you could make one per day, really. 1 30-minute setting, you get comfortable knowing how to use this software AI. You could make 5 clips, 7 clips in 30 minutes.
Easy. In 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. How should churches measure success when repurposing sermon content? Views, engagement, attendance, discipleship, something else? How do you measure discipleship?
Yeah, I would say discipleship in of itself is a hard one to measure. Especially hard probably on any sort of social media. A lot of this is probably really hard to say that came from social media, right? Attendance, discipleship, engagement, and views are
person saying that, hey, I saw this on social media and I attended your church. It's hard to get that metric.
It is, and it's hard for it to be a very tangible metric. If you hear it once, then you don't hear it for a couple of weeks, you hear it again. I know that happens because I hear it from pastors who say, I came in because I saw you on social media.
Mm.
I also think it kind of comes back to what is the purpose? What is social media's purpose? Because every church might have a different answer to what the purpose is.
Yeah, like why are they on the platform?
Yeah. So for some people, it truly is just to get it out, get the message out to anyone that wants to hear about it, right? Other churches, the major thing is I need to see that it actually has some impact in bringing people into the seats on Sunday, right? So there's probably a difference. Because views and likes on social media do not always point to people in seats always. That's just the reality. It should be correlated probably, but it probably also is not a perfect correlation. I don't know if I really answer that question because that's a hard one to answer.
That is a tough one. I mean, you can look at, the vanity metrics of success. I think what I heard you say too is that each church should decide what they're doing on each platform and then decide their own measure of success for what they're posting there.
Yeah.
Is it successful if you post something and crickets see it? Or is it more successful that you have a really small channel and millions of people see it, but nobody ever comes to your church?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Because one church might say, I could get 1 million views on the video, but if nobody shows up on Sunday, that might be a negative to some churches and it might be a positive to other churches.
That's a tough one. Let's see. I know I asked you specific examples of this earlier, but just in general, have you seen churches effectively use sermon content as part of a larger discipleship pathway? So as far as I'm thinking about the 5-day devotional through the week that you mentioned, any content like that, a downloadable PDF?
So when it gets into discipleship, I think the story that I come back to is the one where the pastor told me that he stopped posting the 5-day devotional 1 day, 2 days in a row, and he actually didn't think it was going to be that important. Because when you post things on social media, you can easily get the like button, right? And just people just whatever. They maybe didn't even read it. But when he said he had 2 people text him personally asking him where it was, he was like, oh, that must be way more impactful than I thought it was. Because how many times do you hear people say that when I didn't post something, they actually got a personal message? So that to me feels like there's something happening there.
Yeah.
That
somebody had made it part of their routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think the encouragement I hear in that is there may be times that you're posting message clips that are very helpful to people and they are super bought into watching and engaging with them, but then they don't always return that feedback to you. They don't tell you, hey, pastor, I saw all 5 of the devotionals you posted this week. It's part of my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
It takes maybe not doing it to hear that.
Yep. And one thing worth noting here too is we use social media a lot in how we say all of this, but a lot of this content can be posted in other places too. So
you put it on your website, in an email, church app.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that too. Because it doesn't just have to be on social media. Yep. Why do we keep feeding the beast, Corey? Why do we do it? Let's get those people on our website.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this is going to be a fun one. So looking ahead 3 to 5 years, how do you think AI will change the way churches communicate and disciple people? Maybe communicate with? Whew. It's changing so fast. That could probably be 6 months.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When I think about trying to think about the future, I think, okay, I'm going ahead 5 years, what does looking back 5 years look like? We weren't even talking about AI 5 years
Right?
ago. I mean, the world is going to just, nobody knows. That's the short answer. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And I think what that means is because of things moving so quickly, there's going to be so many opportunities, I think, that come up with AI. I think we need to at least be thinking about how this impacts the church, maybe more than we really have. I don't know. Maybe AI is talked about so much that maybe that feels like a weird answer, but I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't feel like we have answers to yet, and we're still trying to figure out. And I don't. The church is in an important area, an important time of this to figure that out. And so when it comes to discipleship, I mean that's a big thing that I know people are going to want to use AI for. But how much should we be using AI?
Yeah.
For discipleship? Maybe pieces that help you as a person. Disciple, like helping you get there, right?
I was thinking about the trend where you can ask ChatGPT, use it a lot to give me an accurate picture of who I am and things like that.
Yeah.
What if you asked it, like, how good of a follower of Jesus am I based on my chat history?
Ooh.
Then are you being suckled by a robot?
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. Here, if I can like really directly answer that question, or as closely directly answering that question as possible, I think where I'm seeing AI going is there are going to what we do just generally as humans for work, I think is going to change quite a bit. We are going to have to adapt a lot if we want to continue to have impact and a job. I just think there's a lot of jobs out there that are going to have to adapt quite a bit. And maybe for the church, maybe that's a good thing. I know a lot of churches who people on staff aren't interacting with people half as much as they want to be, right? And
they have so much work to do.
Yeah. So, maybe that work is something that I see AI being able to do more and more. And I think that as long as we realize that work that AI is going to take over isn't what actually makes us
valuable.
Yeah, valuable. That's not what it is, especially in the church. That's not actually what value is.
Go
ahead.
Well, I was totally thinking about summer camp. Our church puts on a big summer camp, thousands of kids. And right now they have to manually assign rooms and everything else. They got to figure out ages, but how easy would it be to put all that into a Claude or something and ask it to make a spreadsheet and give it all the parameters, and then you just saved probably 40 to 80 hours worth of work.
Absolutely.
So it seems like that, and then frees people up for ministry so that you can get back to the people part of it. Like that's the whole, I think the tension there that is, if you can use the tool so that you can do more ministry, then you get to do more people's stuff and you don't have to do admin work or push papers around.
Yep. Absolutely. Because that really is the most valuable thing in the church, I think, is connecting with people and discipling people.
Amen.
Putting the right person in the right room, spending the matrix of like, when I move a person here, using your example of the kids together, like
all their preferences of leaders and the leader preferences of kids. And
I mean, there absolutely that leads to some sort of thing of connecting the right, but like truly your impact that you could have on a person could be spent somewhere else that could be more impactful.
Well, so we're getting kind of close to time here. I have a couple of closing questions. Just where the rubber meets the road. If a church leader listening today decides to take one action this week, what would you recommend? either using AI as a tool, using sermon shots, devotional content?
Yeah, I would say in the topic of AI, any time I see some hesitation on using AI in a different place, a lot of times it is somebody who hasn't actually tried to use it. It is the more and more I see people moving just a little bit up the, I don't know what, up a level using AI in a new way, it opens up their mind to like a whole new way of being able to leverage AI. So whether you've started or you haven't started, start somewhere small or start the next sort of incremental thing and just try it. See how it works.
Go from there.
Yeah.
Two more questions and a short question. This is kind of interesting. I'm going to rephrase it, but it's basically asking, what does Sermon Shots do with all the sermons that are uploaded to its platform?
I'm guessing the underlying question is like, do we do something like or use it in some sort of model or something like that? Or
do you take it and repurpose it for other people to use as sermons?
We do not. We do not. It's all theirs. The only time you might ever see somebody else's sermon somewhere for sermon shots is someone who's given us the approval to showcase what they're doing.
Okay. So your models aren't learning for other people or recommending other people's content when they need devotional content. It's not going to upload Corey's sermon from Sunday and then grab Chris's 5-day devotional that's related to the passage and then spit that out for you, right?
Correct.
Okay. I think that was the heart behind that question.
Yep. We do not try to take any sort of rights or copyright or, anything or leverage it to use across our social media, nothing like that.
That's good to know. All right. So tell us where people can learn more about Sermon Shots and the resources that you're providing churches.
Sermonshots.com. The easiest way to start is, if you've never seen how it actually works, we will make a couple clips for you with a sermon. All you have to do is send us your sermon and we'll make it for you. You'll see that as right on the website, or we can show you a demo, or you can jump right in.
Yeah, so sermonshots.com.
Yep.
Awesome.
And you can also find us on all, of course, the social platforms as well. Sermon Shots.
At Sermon Shots.
Correct. Yep.
On everything. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Everywhere, wherever you prefer. And we give like social media tips and things like that in all of those platforms.
That's great. Hey, well, thank you so much for taking time today, Corey, to talk about AI, to let us learn a little more about Sermon Shots, and just for your heart to help pastors multiply their message on a Sunday.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was good.
All right. See y'all.